All right, a fantastic Friday wouldn't be so fun if it didn't start with cricket, right? Well, West Indies are in Sri Lanka for their white ball tour consisting of 3 T20s and 3 ODIs starting on Sunday. Well, this is the first assignment for the men in maroon since the Republic Bank Caribbean Premier League, which was won by the St. Lucia Kings. The performances throughout the tournament earned call-ups to both squads for some standout players like uncapped Barbadian Shamar Springer and Antigua and Barbuda teenage sensation Jewel Andrew. Some senior players have also returned to the team, including Evin Lewis, who has not played a match for the Windies since the 2022 T20 World Cup. Well, here's a look now at both squads. Rovman Powell as the captain, Roston Chase as the vice-captain, Fabian Allen, Alec Athanaze, Andre Fletcher, Terence Hines, Shea Hope, Alzari Joseph, Shamar Joseph, Brandon King, Evin Lewis, Gudikesh Motie, Sherfin Rutherford, Romario Shepherd and Shamar Springer. Well, for the ODI now, we have Shea Hope as the captain, Alzari Joseph as vice-captain, Jewel Andrew, as we said, Alec Athanaze, Casey Carty, Roston Chase, Matthew Ford, Shamar Joseph, Brandon King, returning Evin Lewis, Gudikesh Motie, Sherfin Rutherford, Jaden Seals, Romario Shepherd, and Hayden Walsh Jr. Well, it's now time to bring in our cricket commentator, Nikhil Uttamchandani, into the conversation. And in case you didn't know, viewers, today he celebrates his birthday. Welcome, Nikhil. Happy birthday. I had to tell everybody.
Thank you, Maria. Yeah, no better way to celebrate than, coming on the zone. So I really appreciate you guys bringing me on today.
I respect you because, birthdays are the one day that I don't work, right? I've worked once for my birthday and it's because of the pandemic and I was stuck here.
But you see, for me, this is not work. This is passion. So I would never see it as, I find this is a great birthday gift for myself.
Okay, Nikhil, when you say that, it's like I don't have a comeback, and that usually never happens to me. So welcome to the show, and I really hope you have a beautiful rest of your birthday. So I hope you work for the entire night. Now, we're going to start by talking about coming off of a successful CPL campaign. And, when I think about T20, I think about the sweep that we had against South Africa earlier this year. Now we're getting ready for the T20 competition. What do you think the mood and the mindset is like within the Windies team? And let's just remember that, some key senior players will be out.
Yeah, I think good. When you think about the fact that we just had the CPL, I think a lot of guys will be in really good nick. There would have been that fluidity of playing. And obviously, most of the coaching staff, Floyd Ruffer, Darren Sammy, Abinash Sitaram, are all St. Lucia Kings. So they will all be quite happy with the Roston Chase and Alzari Joseph. So I think, look, it's an important series. Obviously, it's come at a quite interesting time. It just feels like it's emerged out of nowhere. We know we have a couple of big series coming up at home. But I think when we think about the future and that T20 World Cup coming up in 2026, which will be played partly in Sri Lanka, it's an important series to sort of survey conditions, but also I think to identify the depth, as Darren Sammy has been quite vociferous about in the media, wanting to identify the depth that they have in their T20 space and giving guys a fair chance, those that have played before, to sort of come back into the team and maybe, prove themselves and knock on the door for a place in that World Cup squad.
Yeah, and speaking about knocking on the door, when I look at the team, there are a lot of names that, I put some asterisks by because, Nikhil, I need to get your breakdown on these players, right? Because you would have seen them very, very closely. The first one I had here was Terence Hines. He's somebody that I know very well from Trinidad and Tobago. He came into the public eyes, I would say, during the CPL. Not just the CPL, but for the Trinidad and Tobago Knight Riders for some time. But he's also somebody that is known back in his community for hitting the wind ball very hard, like a wind ball king then, right? So he gets into the Windies squad. He has 29 wickets in 19 first-class matches, but he also, as I said, hits the ball very hard. What are your thoughts on his inclusion into this Windies T20 setup?
Yeah, to be honest, it was surprising. I'll be honest with you. When I think about the season he had, where he picked up the 9 wickets, but he went at close to 10 runs and over. And at the back end of the innings, where Darren Sammy's identified him to play a part, he went at over 11 runs and over. However, I think this pick, and it's happening in places like England and Australia where guys are being selected based on their skill sets. And when I think about Terrence Hines and his bowling style, a slingy action, someone who has shown at pressure times this CPL that he can deliver the wide Yorker, which is something we've missed in our T20 side. So I think this selection was more of a skill set selection, knowing his capabilities. And look, I'm excited for him. It'll be obviously first West Indian cap if he's to get there. And yeah, it's a huge chance for him, even though he's been expensive at the CPL, to prove himself in 3 games, potentially earn a spot in the England or Bangladesh series. And then who knows what happens in 2026 when that World Cup comes around.
Yeah, so it's a very, very important assignment for him if he wants to make any of the future T20 teams. Now, a name that I was shocked to see in this squad, and mainly because of the fact that we have not seen him suit up for the West Indies for quite some time. I know I would have seen him in the CPL, but still, it was a tricky one for me, Evin Lewis. How do you feel about him back into the T20 squad and just, what he can give us, Nikhil, on a good day?
I think that's why he's in the squad, Maria, because of what he's shown us when he's been at his best. I mean, at his best, in his prime, this guy has been, I would say, right up there with the best T20 openers in the world. We've seen him in the IPLs, we've seen him at the World Cup, and we've seen him for the West Indies for a number of years when he scored a couple of T20 international hundreds. I think that 100 he scored at Warner Park would have, brought back a few memories of the old Evin Lewis. And Darren Sammy has shown in history that he's quite keen to have him around. He invited him to the World Cup camp earlier this year before that T20 World Cup in the Caribbean. And now, after scoring the 100 at the CPL, he's invited him back again. Ability to maybe survey some depth in that position, that opening spot. We know of Johnson Charles, we know of a Kyle Mayers, Shea Hope has batted there, Athenaze, and then Brandon King's coming back. So I don't mind it. There are a few younger options that maybe people would say, could have been in the squad, but I can understand why, because when this man is firing, like the way he did when he scored this 100, I think there are very few openers that can match him in terms of that destructive factor.
Yeah, and your thoughts on Shamar Springer? He was part of the 2016 Under-19 team that won the World Cup. Shamar Springer continues to grow. He will also be suiting up for the Windies in the T20 format.
Fully deserved, Maria. I think when you look at the way he took his wickets this season, his 12 wickets, most of them coming at the back end of the innings. And of the bowlers who bowled more than 8 overs in the last 5, he had the 4th best economy, went at just 8 runs and over. Again, we know that one of the biggest deficiencies in our West Indian T20 side has been death bowling in the last 5 overs. So this is a skill set that he brings with his off-cutter, with his use of pace, and also the ability to bowl the Yorker. So massive opportunity for someone like Springer, who's just scored a first-class 100 a couple of months ago. And I mean, this could be a pick that, we could see now for the next 2 or 3 years in the West Indies T20 side if he can grab hold of his opportunity.
Yeah, the Sri Lankan team made a couple of changes to their roster for the opening game on Sunday, Nikhil. Your thoughts of what they will offer as an opposition to the West Indies?
A lot of spin, Lance. I think a lot of spin, knowing the West Indies. They've got guys like Hasaranga, Teechana, even Rajapaksa, who's in the squad now. They've got guys who know West Indian conditions well. They also know West Indian batters, and they know the deficiencies that we've had against spin. So I expect to see a lot of spin. And even though Dambula has been quite flat and high scoring, the ball will always spin, and we know the quality of Sri Lankan spinners as well. So I think I expect that. Really good to see Rajapaksa come back into the squad. They've struggled with their finishing. And I mean, I wonder if the knowledge of players and knowledge of the West Indians would have had a factor to play in a St. Lucia King coming back into the team after a while. But look, they had a very strong showing in the one-day international series against India. Decent showing in the Test series against England, where a lot of those personnel will play the T20 series. And exciting for the West Indies, because this is a team that they could potentially meet when the World Cup comes around.
Yeah, and you just mentioned the likelihood of spin being an influential aspect of how this series turns out. Rovman Powell, the West Indies captain, isn't known for his quality as a player of spin batting. And he isn't coming off too strong of a CPL season. How challenging do you expect this assignment to be for Rovman Powell?
It will be a challenge. I think Rovman has had his troubles with wrist spin. So you think about a Hasaranga coming in, you think about Teechana, who's also bowling a googly Lance. But listen, I think it is a good opportunity for Rovman to continue to enhance his game, in places like this. When Bangladesh come to the Caribbean later this year, or even in England with Adil Rashid, when he was at his best in 2021, when he scored that T20 International 100, he was playing like spin well. He was batting against wrist spin and able to score quite quickly. And I think he's sort of shuffled between a few approaches. Last year, CPL was very attacking. This year, tried to be quite defensive and take on bowlers from the other end. So he will continue to learn and find. But as you said, bowlers and captains continue to throw wrist spin at him because they know it's a weakness. So it's a good chance for him to improve that skill.
Yeah, of course, the ODI series will happen after the T20s, and ODI cricket hasn't been a happy hunting ground for the West Indies in quite some time now. Hayden Walsh is a part of that squad. I know you'd have seen him last night playing for the Dallas team against the LA team in the NCL T10 there in the USA. He scored a 14-ball 30 not out last night, didn't he, Hayden Walsh? How do you feel about his selection for the ODI series against the Sri Lankans?
Merited. When I think about Super 50, we forget because so much cricket is played since our last 50 over comp. But let's not forget Hayden Walsh took 20 wickets in that tournament. And I think merited. In that NCL tournament you're speaking of, I'm seeing him bowl the googly, which is always a good sign for Walsh. And Darren Sammy, I think in an interview before the World Cup made it very clear he's looking for a wrist spinner. So even though Hayden Walsh has had a few chances, hasn't really delivered, this is a massive opportunity. If he can make use of this now, maybe, get a few wickets and bowl well consistently because he'll have 10 over spells, I think he'd be knocking on the door for a T20 place as well, given how much Sammy wants, a wrist spinner. But good to see guys like Jaden Seals get an opportunity, who we've seen excel in the test format. And yeah, I think one guy I'm quite surprised about, Lance, that's not in that squad is Justin Graves. Scored 403 runs at the last Super 50, played one-day international cricket in Australia earlier this year, and not selected. And they've got guys like Evan Lewis and that ODI squad, so I would love to know the rationale behind it.
Yeah, and quickly, not often we see a teenager in a West Indies set up for senior cricket, but we all embrace Joel Andrews' talent and potential, so great to see him on this roster.
I'm quite curious, to see if this is an experience pick, mainly to give him sort of that experience of being around the West Indies side, or if Darren Sammy really does like what he sees and puts him in straight away. I definitely think one of the big challenges for him, if he does get an opportunity, is going to be that batting spin and scoring against spin, because when he was sort of batting throughout the tournament, after a few games and teams started to figure him out, they threw a lot of spin at him, and it proved to be to his demise. I think his last 4 dismissals were all to spin. So that will be another challenge for him. But I mean, come on, invaluable experience for a 17-year-old to be on a West Indies tour, away from home, where obviously you'll spend more time as a team. And yeah, huge moment for him in his young career.
Yeah, Nikhil, well, we're looking forward to Sunday to see how this Windies team go about. Want to wish you again a happy birthday. We here on the SportsMax Zone love you, and everybody sends their best wishes, and we hope that you visit us again in studio really soon.
Yeah, hopefully, actually. I know there's some West Indian cricket in Jamaica coming up, so hopefully looking forward to that.
Well, the team can get excited about that. Again, thank you, Nikhil. Talk soon.
All right, cheers, guys. Have a good one.
Yeah, Nikhil Uttamchandani there, of course, our cricket commentator. And sometimes he does predictions. When he gets it right, that's a good day. Break time.